You know, there's one critical aspect that Pete actually got wrong, and that was about having the support of my wife. She has my support. Ruth has been an integral part of everything that we've done since we chose to leave the corporate world and to move here to Utah and to start our own businesses. We had a lot of ideas when we came here about things we would like to do, and it wasn't just us making a decision to leave corporate America and start doing entrepreneurial things. It's something I've always had an interest in doing. My first business was pony rides. That worked until the police told me I couldn't do it anymore in Richfield, Utah, where I grew up. I also sold ice cream out of a freezer hooked to the back of my four-wheeler when I was growing up. I got expelled from school in the 3rd grade for selling bird whistles. Does everybody know what a bird whistle is? Those things you put in the top of your mouth and you just blow on them? Well, I could buy those at a dime at the magic shop in the mall, and they were worth $1 down in Richfield where nobody knew what they were. And that was great. I spent my $10. I bought about 100 of them. I went back and I sold 20 or 30 of them to kids. And the teachers weren't real thrilled about that concept of having bird whistles where the kids could just smile and blow and make whistling sounds. So I was called into the principal's office and told that I needed to cease and desist in that business. So what did I do? I ran a clearance sale, 50 cents. And liquidated my bird whistles, and as a consequence got to stay home for about 4 days and rethink my business opportunities. I've enjoyed doing my own thing through the years. I got my way through school running a home maintenance business that did very well. In fact, when I left BYU, I was making about 3 times as much doing that as the job that I took in corporate America, which was for Ford Motor Company. What Ruth and I thought would be interesting to do to kind of help you to see how our lives have integrated with one another and to talk about our experience ending with what we're currently doing, just kind of to walk through what our experience has been. So going on the side of our formal education, I'll let Ruth talk a bit about what we did here in Utah.
Okay, so on our formal education, even though Pete just thrashed on accounting, I actually enjoy accounting. So every job I've ever taken, including my volunteer high school, I was a business manager for the yearbook club, has dealt with accounting and with numbers. And Jim and I both graduated from BYU, and at the year we graduated, it was ranked #2 in the nation. So it was a good fit. Jim has a different reason why taking accounting, but I loved accounting. And so that's where we started with getting our basis in our bachelor. And Jim,
we had some interesting issues that happened to us while we were in accounting, because Ruth and I went through all the same classes for the 3 years that we were married at BYU. One of those issues was we were called into the dean's office after taking an exam, and he had a very serious look on his face, and he said, we've called you in here because you just finished taking your final exam. You both got the exact same score. And it was the top of the class, but he was very serious when he said this. Oh, don't accuse us of cheating. And then he smiled and says, fortunately, you missed completely different problems. And the reason for that, Ruth and I think very differently. Ruth is very analytical. She has the mind that works very well for an accountant. She does very well with that. I don't. I very much dislike that formality, but I want to understand it. And that was my reason for getting an education in accounting. I felt that I needed to have a good understanding of finance. I needed to make sure that I understood how the companies that I would be a part of would treat finance. But my nightmare in leaving BYU was to get an accounting job. So I worked hard, and I went to work instead I went to work in finance for Ford Motor Company. And while I was there, I got an MBA at the University of Michigan, which was a wonderful experience. It was a great education. The classes were incredible, very good interaction with the other students, a lot of people with great experiences there. And they have a very strong entrepreneurship program. So I took many of my classes. You don't specifically say you're going to go into a discipline within your MBA at the University of Michigan, but many of my classes were in the entrepreneurial world. And during that time, I worked with a group of students and other employees at Ford, where we would come together and we'd throw out ideas. And we had a think tank going where we were always talking about what we would want to do when we escaped the world of corporate America. We'll get to that in just a second. Now the most important part of our education.
It is our Masters of Reality. So you guys are all college students. You're feeling like that tuition bill every semester is expensive. I guarantee you that Masters of Reality bill is even more expensive. You jump into your own business, you jump into whatever you're doing, and all the rules seem to change. For some reason, you have a plan, you execute the plan, and that result may not be the same result that you expected. And you have to learn to change, you have to learn to modify, you have to learn to work with your plan. And as Jim and I talked about our differences, I'm the more analytical. I like to have a plan. I like to stick with it. But you have to learn to think outside the box. And that is the biggest thing that I see so many. I've been doing taxes for the past several weeks for many businesses, but that is the downfall of the majority of the businesses that I see is they do what they like to do, and that's it. And that reality bill is you have to say, what do I need to do to be successful? And that may mean tweaking it, changing it, and thinking outside the box.
Yeah. Ruth and I, as we've grown our business, we've gotten involved in many aspects of business that are very different than where we started as a Main Street toy store. We currently do, we've got many containers of product that we import direct from the Orient. We work cross-border with many different venues. That's a larger dollar amount of our business than anything we do in our Main Street toy stores. The reason for telling you that is there's a whole learning curve that comes when you expand your businesses in different ways. That you have to learn how to deal with people and situations, circumstances that are very different than what you may have learned in a textbook here at school. That experience is critical, and mistakes that you make out there in that world can cause you a lot of money. I'll tell you in a minute. In fact, I'll jump into that now. We'll get to that in just a second. I want to talk about my corporate world first. There's mistakes that Ruth and I have made in our entrepreneurial efforts here in Utah that cost more than our educations combined. And those are expensive things when you put it in dollar and cents perspective. So it's important to understand that. Your education is more about your pattern of learning than it is about the things that you're learning. Remember that. Right here in school, some of you have life's experiences. But what you're learning here, the facts matter much less than the pattern of learning that you're experiencing here and how to go out and figure things out in the real world and apply the learnings that you've had here at the university. When Ruth and I left Utah for the first time, we went to work in the corporate world, and I worked at IBM with Ruth. We both spent a year there working in accounting jobs, which was not what I really wanted to do with my life. When I had the opportunity to change that and to move over to Ford Motor Company and work in Ford Finance, where I was the lead financial analyst at the Michigan truck plant. It gave me a lot of opportunity to grow myself and to do things differently. You think about entrepreneurship. How many here have started some type of business on their own? Can you raise your hands if you've done something on your own? Okay. A lot of people say they're making a decision to be an entrepreneur now or to go work for somebody else. How many of you are thinking about that decision? Am I going to do my own thing, or am I going to go work for somebody else? To be honest with you, that's the wrong question. The question, in my opinion, you should be asking yourselves is, am I entrepreneurial in nature, or am I better following the process that someone else lays out for me to do at work? If you think about it for a second, when you go to work in corporate America, the need for entrepreneurs is just as great at Ford Motor Company and General Motors and IBM and the other companies that I've worked at. The need for entrepreneurs is just as great there as it is on Main Street in Springville. It's the way that you think that makes you an entrepreneur. When I went to work at Ford Motor Company, they were doing things in a certain way, the way it had always been done. The things that made me succeed in that job there was going in with a different set of eyes and saying, we should do this differently. We should find a better way to complete the tasks that we're doing on a daily basis. And I had many opportunities to change things, to see the way that they do budgeting and recording of those budgets and actual performance against those budgets completely changed because of the work I was able to do while I was at Ford. When I left Ford, it was at the end of my MBA, when I went to work for, or when I finished my school, I went to work for Deloitte Consulting. Great opportunity. I had a lot of fun working with Deloitte. I was working with other businesses, going in and addressing problems that they saw and having that opportunity to live the life of a consultant. It was fun. I enjoyed it. But I will tell you, it's also a strenuous life. I spent a lot of time on the road. My kids would kiss me goodbye on Sunday night or Monday morning and usually see me Thursday night or Friday night because I was gone traveling most of the time, working in companies elsewhere. That was okay when the kids were excited to pick me up at the airport, but it really bothered me when they stopped being excited to pick me up at the airport. I realized I was becoming less a part of their life. That's when Ruth and I made the decision to leave the world of consulting and to go to work for General Motors Asset Management. GMAM is the financial arm of General Motors that handles all of their pension plans. They also manage money for Xerox and Delphi and a handful of other companies. So I had a good opportunity. I worked there as a consultant as their interim chief information officer, and they offered me a position to come in as the director of operations for them and work the operations of that financial branch. And we worked with many companies on Wall Street and throughout the financial district. Wonderful growth opportunities there. Made more money than I ever thought I would make as a professional in corporate America. Great experience for me to have and to work with people at a very high level as I had a department of dozens of people who all had master's degrees, and in their world of expertise, they were all much smarter than I am. But I had a great team that I was able to work with as they were able to succeed in their world, and that made us as a group succeed together. And I really enjoyed that. Then something happened.
So everybody's heard of corporate handcuffs. If you're in entrepreneurship, that's usually used as a degrading term. But corporate handcuffs, they're real. They're very real. We lived the corporate lifestyle for many, many years. Then we became entrepreneurs, and we are our very own owners. And it's good for everyone to understand what those corporate handcuffs are, because they are real, and as you hire people, they are real to the people that you hire. As you're making business decisions, it's important for you to understand what you're getting into. Let's take, when we left General Motors Asset Management Group, we got to every 6 months pick out a new car, free of charge. Did not have to pay for the car. We did not have to pay for the insurance. We did not have to pay for the gas. They gave us a credit card. So every 6 months, we got a Denali loaded.
The holy Denali.
I missed the Denali, actually. It was really nice. They give you, when he left, he had 3 to 4 weeks paid vacation on top of all of about 10 or 14 standard General Motors holidays. So many that we couldn't actually take them all because his work still had to get done. We had salary. No matter how well the business did, you got that same salary, unaffected by good years, bad years. We got bonuses on top of that. Healthcare. You got healthcare. Because General Motors is a very large corporation, was there any form that said, how healthy are you? Did you have cancer? How's your mom and dad? Did that affect my rates whatsoever? Not one bit. Life insurance, IRA, all of these packages that, because you're in corporate America, it's a piece of cake. That's not the same in entrepreneurship. You don't have to learn the same laws in corporate America as you do in the School of Hard Knocks here, where you're having to research how to make your business profitable, how you can make healthcare affordable, how to deal with all of the corporate handcuffs.
And Ruth and I, as we were working in that world, we had a family experience of we lived through some traumatic experiences. We lived through 9/11 in New York City. We lived through what you guys wouldn't even recognize, but there was a blackout where the city was without power for a couple of days, and that was kind of scary when we actually were working in that environment because of having lived through 9/11. People were very sensitive. I mean, I was the chair of the emergency response committee at General Motors, and one of the honest considerations, and I look back at it now and I kind of laugh, if you were to come in my home office, you would see this. They issued to all of the employees a gas mask and the option to buy at a subsidized rate a parachute. Okay? Which sounds crazy unless you were standing at the bottom of the trade center when you saw people jumping out. And then it doesn't sound so crazy. That was an interesting experience that was on our mind in the years that we lived there, where we had that. Well, Ruth and I took a break from the world of New York City, and we went down to Disney World with the kids on a whim. And we were staying at a resort there at Disney World, and down at the swimming pool swimming, and my oldest daughter, her name is Jessica. At the time, Jessica was 8 years old. And she just very casually told me that I was a vacation daddy. What do you think that means?
You're only there on vacation.
Yeah. My relationship with Jessica was vacations. We had great vacations.
They were fun.
We got to do lots of really fun things, but that's how she knew me. And as Ruth and I went back to the hotel that night and we talked about my relationship with Jessica and my other 4 kids at the time, or 3 kids at the time, we had 4 at that time, we realized that they loved me and we had a good relationship, but they didn't know me and I didn't know them. And so we looked at our lives and said, why is that? And the honest reason was, aside from the things Ruth talked about that were good things about where I worked, I got up in the morning and I went to work before the kids woke up, and I often didn't get home until they had gone to bed. I was very proud because when I was really busy, I'd just hire a car service so that I could work on my way in, on my way back. And that gave me prestige to be able to drive in my nice car and to have those aspects in my life. And I thought that was success. I looked at the measures that I'd learned in school, and that all seemed to be in line with what I was supposed to be doing. But I was failing at home. And in discussion with Ruth, we decided before that failure became something that was detrimental on our family, we said we're going to leave that. And on Monday morning when I went back to the office, I resigned. I gave my 2-week notice. We stayed there for a month. I worked for another 30 days to help everything get transferred over to my successor. And Ruth and I came to Utah clueless of what we were going to do. So the next section that you see up here is called Jimmy and Ruth's Entrepreneurial Adventures. I want to sing, it's like The Hobbit. We're going on an adventure! Who's seen it? A couple of you? Okay. That's a common saying at our house now. We're going on an adventure. Well, our entrepreneurial events and experiences here have been an adventure. You saw a flash page at the beginning of the presentation that showed some of the businesses that currently are in existence and are fairly successful. You didn't see the failed adventures. And I've been on a few of those. My objective as an entrepreneur is to identify failures as fast as I can and cut them off so that they don't drag my other businesses down. And we've done that on several occasions where we've simply said this partnership, this business, this idea is not working, and we made the choice to cut it off. Well, Ruth and I, when we came out here, the first business we started was Funfinity. How hard can it be? You buy toys and you sell toys, right? That's what we thought. In fact, we picked out all the toys and we developed a catalog. We were so smart that we figured we could develop the catalog better than anyone else could. So we wrote our own catalog, and we spent hours making images pretty and doing nice write-ups, making this catalog look subpar. As we go back and look at it now, it was really a pretty ugly catalog. In fact, we made dumb mistakes, like we ordered the product as we were writing the catalog for the holiday season. So it was really great because family would ask us for certain products that we had on the cover of the catalog. Be like, oh, I'm sorry, we're sold out. Truth? We never got it. We were too late ordering it. We missed the opportunity with those products. They were in high demand and we couldn't get the supply that we needed for them. But here's the biggest failure. We thought we'd be a cataloging company. So we produced these catalogs and we sent out 10,000 of them. And we didn't understand things like when you send mail, it goes from being a bulk rate where you can send it for around 55 to 60 cents to $1.20, and we were just a fraction of an ounce over that threshold. So the cost of shipping these things out was twice as expensive because we didn't use the right weight paper or we put too many pages in the catalog. So our $10,000 catalog expense delivered to people's homes, instead of being around 12 or 13,000, became much higher. Much higher. Well, we were all set though. We were ready to go. We had a phone center set up and we were ready to start receiving those calls and getting those orders. We got out the 10,000 catalogs. They were set to hit people's homes on the day after Thanksgiving. And on Friday, guess how many phone calls we got? 0. Saturday, we got 0 phone calls. You know why? The catalogs never got shipped off the dock of the person responsible to make the shipping happen. Okay? The shipping company we had chosen just didn't get them out. So they went out the next Monday or Tuesday, and by the end of that week, we started getting calls, and guess what the calls were? Yeah, we just got your catalog. We want to let you know, your cover's on upside down. We got more calls telling us that our cover was on upside down than we got calls for orders. Okay? Expensive education here, guys. Very expensive education. At the end of the day, we got a small handful of orders. To give you perspective, we figure it cost us around $5,000 an order when we take the cost of this whole event and allocate it across the orders we got. You think we were successful? Okay. Could I have been smarter? Are there lots of things I should have done to do my homework, to understand the cataloging industry, all of that before I sent out those catalogs? There absolutely are. It was a school of hard knocks. We never did that one again. Not in that way anyway. But we decided we would continue our business. Even though, by the way, guess how we started our business? I went to my lovely accounting wife and I said, I want to do this. We need probably $40,000 or $50,000 to start a business. And what do you think my accounting wife told me? Not for my money. She was a little bit nicer than that, but she said, we're not touching the money we have in the bank. We're not touching money we have as equity in our home. And I respected that, and I was grateful for that. So I learned the power of eBay. I sold the Holy Denali on eBay and delivered it to a lady over in Reno who gave me cash, which is what we used to buy catalogs and fell. It was not a good experience. But we also had a lot of product, and we discovered something. That product that we'd bought that we weren't selling through the catalogs, we need to get rid of. So we started selling on eBay. We became very successful on eBay. We were surprised how much money. We actually ended that year in the black, even with our catalog expense, because of the volume we were able to do on eBay. And as we went into the following year, we made the decision to move this whole business out of our garage, out of our home, which is where we were running it. And we opened a retail store on Main Street in Springville, and that's about the time that a real sloppy-looking guy named Pete came by. Had to jab him too. That's about the time Pete and I met, which has been a very wonderful relationship. I've learned as much working with Pete about myself as I ever did in my formal education, and I'm very grateful for that. It's helped me to make a lot of different business decisions and helped Ruth and I to take our business in different directions. And as we opened that Main Street toy store and we began to have success in retail, we eventually went down the path of opening a second store here in Orem. And Ruth will tell you a little bit about some of the other businesses that we acquired along the way.
Okay, and this is all about changing and readjusting. The catalogs didn't work, so we had to adjust. We started eBay. We got out of our house. We adjusted. Now when we're not only online, but we have a retail front. Well, we decided that our little small corner toy store wasn't big enough. So we decided we needed to move. Now, right across the street was the Red Leaf bookstore. Great little bookstore, but they weren't operating really in the black at all. And so it was time for them to close. So now we had the choice. You know, you can buy the building and it just goes away, but we said, hey, this is an opportunity. Why don't we go into books? So now we moved, we bought the building, we have our toys, our games, we added books. We only added the most profitable. We talked to them and where their demand was, we decided to take over that market of books. So now we've got a bigger outlet, but those same loyal customers that were going to the Red Leaf now came into our store, and now they found a toy store. People that did not come and see us on our Funfinity store, we now just added more customers, and we capitalized on that. Should I go into the chocolate store too, or?
Well, I'll tell a little bit about that. Ruth and I had an interesting experience where we wanted to move here to Orem,
yeah,
but we were unsuccessful in getting into the location we wanted to get into, which was over behind Village Inn and the Missionary Mall. We thought that would be a good place for a toy store. And as we went down that path of trying to get into there and working with the property owners there, they had determined that Funfinity wasn't the right fit for what they wanted there. But I was very resilient in their denial and made the decision to go down that row of stores and offer to purchase their businesses. And I was fortunate in regards to Shepherd's Cake and Candy. As I walked in and talked with the owners of that business, that they were very interested in selling it. So we worked out a great deal between us that we bought Shepherd's Cake and Candy, assumed their lease, and turned it into Funfinity. And as we go on, we look at where Shepherd's Cake and Candy was. It now is Funfinity in about 2/3 of it. And the more profitable part of the Shepherd's Cake and Candy was the chocolate and supply business. We've retained that, and we continue to sell that. It's been a very good experience for us. Again, it was a non-traditional way to grow our business, and it's been very successful in the end. But at the time, we were just looking for an opportunity to expand our footprint as Funfinity. The other name that you see up here is Zany. Zany is what we branded our internet business. We found that it was confusing to a lot of our customers to see products priced differently out online than it was in our store. So we chose to move away from calling ourselves Funfinity online. We do have a website, but it's there more for informational purposes for Funfinity. And Zany is now the business where we do the majority of our online sales. We sell through a lot of different venues, eBay as well as Amazon and other venues. And that business has grown exponentially in comparison to Funfinity. It's become one of the larger portions of our combined businesses. We actually do about 10 times the volume through there as we do through our toy stores. And that's been a very successful adventure for us. Back in 2008, I was working with Pete as an adjunct here, working in the world of entrepreneurship with students like you. And we always would, in our class, define the perfect type of business. And a lot of times our discussions would come back and center around sales businesses being very profitable, where you had low risk, where you didn't own the product, but you were the middleman working on getting product out to other people. So I had an opportunity back in 2008 to become a part of what's called Fulmer and Associates. And I started a business called Fun Sales Reps that I go out and I sell the same products that I carry in my store to all of the toy stores in Utah, Idaho, and Nevada. And it's been a very successful venture. That business itself has grown from when I took it over, doing just over $1 million a year in sales, to last year we did over $6 million. So it's been a very profitable, forward-looking adventure for us to be a part of. And it's a good business. The model of that business works. Ruth and I also have been involved with many other businesses that you don't see named here. My latest adventure, we're not sure if it's a success or a failure yet, is called Commerce Patrol. And it's operating in the black. The growth curve is pretty much stunted by my inability to go out and work with it with my partner, who's not Ruth. It's an external partner that I'm working with on this business. But the two of us have not had the drive so far to put as much time into it as we need to as we're working other businesses. But it's a technology-based company, and it also has provided good opportunity for us and has been a good forward-thinking company that actually integrates into our other business. You'll see as you look down that, they all kind of work together, though they're very different opportunities. The toy store and the internet business sell some of the same products. There are things we sell online that we could never sell in our toy store. There are things we sell in our toy store that would not sell online. The business that we work with Fulmer & Associates in the sales business, I sell a lot of stuff to Ruth. She's my favorite customer. But I also sell to a lot of other people within this region. And the Commerce Patrol business is basically a data aggregation business that pulls information about all that stuff that I sell together, and we use it to be more profitable in what we do with our sales. So that gives you an idea of what we currently do. Again, some entrepreneurs have great success running one business. We've defined our success by getting involved in several businesses, and it works for us. We run everything, by the way, out of our home. That was one of the things we decided to do when we came here. We were just telling Pete we're looking for a bigger home because we now have 4 full-time employees who work at our home. And it gets a little bit cramped there on occasion. But we do enjoy having that ability to work out of our home where we can be with our kids all day long. This is what I call dressing up. It's not like the days of Wall Street. I have lots of very dusty suits in my wardrobe. Now, this is a slide that I really like. I think, Pete, you were the first one to share this with me. But this is the mindset that I see in so many entrepreneurial ventures that people start. Is they put together a plan that has about as much strength as that web, and they feel that they will conquer the world. They will eat like kings if they can only pull this off. Have you guys ever seen family businesses or things like that happen? Where if only it works, it'll be great, right? Well, in business, we find a lot of times that you got to have more behind it than just a light plan. There's a favorite photo that I have. This is my daughter, Jocelyn. Jocelyn is now a bustling 13-year-old and would die if she knew that I was showing you this photo. But that is Jocelyn when we lived in New York. And as you might have guessed, this is her first attempt at makeup. She had seen Mom put it on every day for most of her life. And how hard can it be, right? Well, we found Jocelyn. She had got Ruth's makeup bag, and she'd gone over into the corner of our bedroom, and she had applied the makeup. Now, she got it pretty right when you think about it. She's 2.5 here. The lipstick's in the right area. Got some mascara up by the eyes. A little bit of cover up here. Who knows what that is? I'm not sure we want to know. But she got the right general idea. What was her problem? Why doesn't she look like Mommy? By the way, here's the great thing. She came in very excited, Daddy, Daddy! And that's what she looked like. And Ruth and I just were dying laughing. And what you're seeing right there, this is a picture of the mirror. This is the first time that Jocelyn saw herself.
Yeah, we took her into the bathroom and
she didn't have a mirror when she was applying the makeup. So what do you think? Did she get what she was expecting? Why? What's wrong? What happened? What are the tools she was missing? A mirror would have been helpful. Some feedback, in other words. What else was she missing? Experience. She didn't have experience. Probably didn't have proper training. She had just seen Mommy do it, right? So can this be applied to business? What do you think? A lot of times people go out there and they do what I did with the catalogs. They go out there and think, I'm going to do this without really knowing what they're doing. You have to know what it is that you're looking for in order to be successful and get the results that you want. A lot of people would kind of call this finding your niche. I like the dictionary.com definition of a niche. It says it's a situation or activity specially suited for a person's interests, ability, or nature. What works for me and Ruth is not something that would work for a lot of other people. We've been a part of these lecture series for a few years now, and we've got to know other people who come in and do these lectures. And there are other people that I look at and I just admire. I think, wow, that's an awesome thing that they've done. And they look at me and say, but yeah, I'd much rather be working out of my home. But their situation is different than mine. Their aspirations and what they're looking to get out of their business is different than what Ruth and I are looking to get out of our business. Our internet business could be 10 times the size that it is. But we don't want it to see it grow like that. Our business supports, we have about 30 employees. We're happy with the employees that we have. We're happy with the way that our business exists right now. And as we see it grow, we grow in ways that work for Ruth and I. That doesn't mean it's the same decision that Pete or someone else would make as they're going down that road of developing their business. But for us, it works. And I think that's the most important piece of advice that I would give to entrepreneurs or people who are thinking about getting into their own business. Understand what you want. Understand what works for you. Find your niche. Find your dream. And then go after that. But do it with your eyes open. Don't be Jocelyn applying the makeup without knowing what you're doing. Don't be me starting a catalog company without any clue of how to do that. Understand your business idea. Make sure that you get the right counsel and advice around it. And when you get criticism or critiques that will say you should look at this differently, listen to them. Realize that that's the cost of that school of hard knocks can be very expensive. But if you'll take the time to listen to those who are around you and look for the opportunities, not being afraid to divorce yourself of your ideas sometimes, and realize that it might be a great idea, but it's not going to be a successful business. It's okay. You have to morph and change that. We'll end with one of Ruth and mine's favorite quotes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Destiny. Isn't it funny that princes and kings and clowns that caper on sawdust strings and common folks like you and me are builders by choice of our destinies? To each is given a bag of tools, a shapeless mass, and a book of rules. And each must make, ere time is shown, a stumbling block or a stepping stone.
I think entrepreneurship is about defining our own destiny at the end of the day. And we have to do that with the tools that we've been given, the desires that we have, the skills that we have. Find those things that will make you successful. We're grateful for the opportunity to come here. It's always fun to come and talk to students. It's always fun to hear your ideas and your thoughts. And we welcome that. We welcome any questions you've got for the last few minutes. My email, by the way, is jimmy@funfinity.com. And Ruth's is ruth@funfinity.com. If you ever have any questions or think of anything you'd like to talk to us about, we're pretty good at getting back to people most of the time, except when we're not. Any questions? Please.
With such a large number of companies, how do you keep that straight? Or are your employees all under one umbrella?
We have an amazing team.
Magicians.
That's what we've built over the last 8 years that we've been here. We have a fantastic store manager that manages both of our retail stores. We have a fantastic warehouse manager that takes care of our warehouse and all of our shipping and receiving requirements. I've got a great partner that I work with in my distribution and sales repping business that helps keep me on task. And I've got the most amazing wife in the world, and she makes sure that I don't get in trouble. So.
And I'd like to add the other important thing that if you're planning on doing a lot of different things, you have to let go. we hit a point in our company that we said, you know what? My manager's awesome in Springville, in Orem. But she may do things slightly different than I like. And you have to say, what are the most important things that have to be done? And then, you know what? There's 2 ways to screw in a light bulb, left and right. And you have to say, in order for it to go, I've got to give her responsibility and freedom unless I want to be down there doing it. So, important aspect.
Empowering them has been really important. Please.
What made you decide on toys?
Well, to be honest, when we moved here, we were kind of clueless and in the cloud of believing we could succeed in whatever we did. And we looked at buying auto repair companies, thought about opening a chain of Jiffy Lubes, thought about lots of different things. And then we thought, well, the reason for being here is to be with our kids. And so we went the avenue of toys, and it's been great. 5 of our 6 kids now work for us in some capacity, and the youngest one will join the team next year when he turns 6. But they all get involved to some degree. They all have Roth IRAs fully funded. Think about that, those of you who are parents, and what happens when a 5-year-old invests money in a Roth IRA. And if he does that for 20 years, how much money is he going to have when he's your age? Okay, those are things that we've made a priority, and we've let our kids be a part of it. My older girls all work at the stores. The next 2 kids help Grandma make all the fudge and candies and all that kind of stuff in our Orem store. And the youngest one's just helping around the house with stickering catalogs and doing things I need in my repping business.
Yeah. Our 17-year-old junior in high school, she's helping me run a NEBO school conference later this week, taking off 2 days of school.
It's been great because our kids do have that responsibility. And Ruth and I made the decision, rather than telling our kids that we would pay for their education, we told them we'll pay you enough that you can save for your own education. And so we do that, and they all have that objective of saving enough money to make sure that they're paying for their education. It's part of what the family does. So that's why toys works. I'm not sure I could get my daughters into the auto parts shop. Other questions? All right, well, thank you again for your time. It's been fun being here.